The Poet and the Stonemason. Part 2. Stonemastery. The oldest structure yet known to have been built by Robert Pearson is San Anselmo's Montgomery Memorial Chapel, completed in 1897. This is a famously eccentric design, given to Masonic rather than Christian symbolism. It's probably safe to say that this chapel is the most impressive of Pearson's known works. I have not encountered any reports that the chapel suffered damage during the 1906 quake. The chapel stonework resembles that of other Pearson creations, particularly with respect to the precise stone cutting, though the blocks are more uniform in size and placement than might be expected from a typical Pearson project. Such matters were probably determined by the architects, Wright and Sanders of San Francisco. The courses of this ashlar layout are almost entirely unbroken. There are no vertically oriented blocks. The use of semicircular arches, curved walls, and 3 conical domes give this building an unmistakably Romanesque character. A recent article in Marin magazine touts the chapel as, quote, perhaps the purest example of Romanesque revival architecture in the state, end quote. Robert Pearson worked on the chapel from 1894 to 1895. Newspaper columns in December 1894 spoke highly of the chapel's quality of workmanship. One column reports, quote, as a piece of workmanship, this building takes front rank with any of the kind in this section of the state, end quote. At the turn of the century, Robert Pearson moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, apparently to build the Kakaako pumping station. This impressive structure was built in 1900 and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. No credit is given to whoever did the stonework on the pumping station, but it is likely that Pearson was the mason or perhaps the lead mason. The stone blocks are cut with precision. A repeating broken-range ashlar design is employed, with a semicircular arch and lintel stones. Several years later, Robert Pearson oversaw the stonework for the majestic Carnegie Library in Santa Rosa. Construction began in April 1903, and the library opened in May of the following year. Though the stonework of the library was stylistically rough, it was precise and not short on detail. It sported a stone balustrade with stone support beams. The windows and doorways were crowned by lintels and semicircular arches. Buttresses flanked the base walls. While Pearson was building the library, Santa Rosa was struck by a rash of fires, worst among them the July 5, 1903 Railroad Square fire, which destroyed the town's train depot. Not long after the stones were set on the library, Pearson began work on a new depot. February and March of 1904 were very wet months. San Francisco received a foot of rain over those 2 months. Santa Rosa certainly received much more. A newspaper article from the time reported that, quote, the work has progressed well considering the opposition of the elements to the progress of construction. Superintendent J.J. Murray and Robert Pearson still keep their same old genial smile despite the rain, end quote. The new stone depot would be received well. One newspaper article observed, quote, the handsome new depot was used for the first time on Thursday morning, and Agent Fred O. Force smilingly occupied his place at the ticket window and heard many compliments expressed by people who inspected the picturesque and decidedly attractive structure. The railroad is certainly to be congratulated on having such a depot building." End quote. The depot employs random range ashlar masonry, with mosaic color variation and the precise cut common to Pearson's work. Lintel stones top the windows and doorways. The quake of 1906 devastated Santa Rosa, but the stone depot survived without harm. The Carnegie Library, however, was badly damaged. Its tower collapsed, taking much of the facade down with it. The library would be restored, but the disaster raised doubts as to whether the lofty masonry might collapse again were the earth to quake once more. The contractor William Peacock, who employed Pearson for the construction of both buildings, was killed along with his wife when the same earthquake destroyed Santa Rosa's Occidental Hotel. The Carnegie Library was declared unsafe in 1960 and demolished in 1964, but long before it was leveled. It and the Santa Rosa Depot were immortalized in film. The 1943 Alfred Hitchcock film Shadow of a Doubt, allegedly Hitchcock's personal favorite, is something of a Robert Pearson showcase. The story is bookended by two train scenes, each accompanied by a depot scene. The opening depot scene is idyllic, though with some foreshadowing, and the closing scene, idyllic only on its face, sets up the horror of the closing. The film's big reveal is provided by a visit to the brooding Carnegie Library. The 1956 Bette Davis film Storm Center was also filmed at the Santa Rosa Library. A frame from that film gives us a peek at what appears to be the building's masonry, a random range ashlar style. Given the popularity of the Ivy League look in the mid-20th century, it is surprising that we can see any stone at all. A building adjacent to the Santa Rosa Depot, the Railroad Express Agency Office, is one of the historic buildings that constitute Santa Rosa's historic Railroad Square District. This building's stonework very closely resembles that of the depot. No mason is on record, so far as we know. It seems reasonable to assume that Robert Pearson did the stonework. However, it may be the work of another mason on contract to approximate the look of the depot. The stonework of the younger building appears to be of a lower quality than that of the depot.